Good evening. I wanted to make this short video to repeat the Miniconda installation we did on macOS. Miniconda, Anaconda, they're both ways of getting the whole Anaconda system onto your machine. We start by downloading the 64-bit Windows installer. It's actually quite a lot easier than the Mac or the Linux versions because I download the installer and I simply click on the exe file. And in this case, unlike the Mac OS where we deviate slightly from the instructions, I think it's probably while Miniconda and Anaconda are updating the installation instructions, here we really just select the defaults. So I'm installing it just for me, and I'm installing it in the default directory, in my home directory, Miniconda 3. And then over here, I leave this at default. It even explains that it's probably not a good idea to add Miniconda to the path environment variable, although it does like to register this Anaconda Python 3.7 as your default system Python 3.7, which in most cases will be the right thing to do. Now, because this installation takes quite long, I have, like any good cooking program presenter, pre-prepared the installation. So I would have now clicked the install button, but that takes almost a minute to a minute and a half on the system. There are thousands of files that get extracted from those archives. So instead, I'll just interrupt this, and then I'll just rename the exact same Miniconda I installed just before starting this recording. There we go. Okay, so after you finish that installation, you will find in your commands, I just usually press the Windows button and I start searching, you'll find a thing called the Anaconda Prompt. Now when I start that, inside of this prompt, you'll see something interesting. It says base here in the front. That just indicates that the base Anaconda environment is now active. And I also can see that in this environment, I'm able to run any Conda commands. There we go. That's the latest Conda at the time of this video. So let's start by creating our first Anaconda environment. So I'm not sure you've seen, or you probably have not seen the macOS Miniconda video, but in short, this is a way to create nicely isolated Python environments on your system. Or actually, well, they're actually library environments that can contain far more than just Python, and you can even have environments that do not contain Python. So it's a way of creating isolated subdirectories filled with software dependencies that your projects might need. In my practice daily, we have separate environments for each and every project that we work on so that we can finally define the software dependencies of each of those projects. So let's create one of these environments. Let's call it VXUni because we'll be using this VXUni environment or reusing this VXUni environment in many of these lectures. And very importantly, I have to tell it that I want Python in there because this is a Python, I want the Python binaries in this environment. Also, it will create an empty environment that I could potentially fill with other non-Python libraries. So let's do this for now. So when I do that, it will figure out what it needs to install. Fortunately, I've only asked it for Python, so there are only a small number of dependencies that it needs to install due to that top-level dependency. We just wait for a while the solver runs. So it will soon figure out what it needs. There we go. So it kind of tells me before the time, this is what I'm going to do. So I say, yes, I'm fine with that. And then it will apply, or it will install those dependencies into that environment. Just wait for it, there we go. So now that I think, I can see that I have the base environment and I can see that I have the VXUni environment available. And by that asterisk, I can see that base is active at the moment. I also see that in my prompt. And I can change that situation by typing conda activate VXUni. So now VXUni is active, as you can see there. To confirm, when I type where Python, the first hit it gives me is the one in VXUni. And to make doubly sure, this is an experiment, I run Python. I do some imports, and then I ask Python, where do you think OS came from, that module? And it tells me OS came from Miniconda 3 environments VXUni lib OS. So I know now that when I import anything, it comes from the VXUni virtual environment, which is exactly what I want. Okay, so the next step in setting up our little environment is PyCharm. Is a good IDE. To do that, you just install PyCharm community from the JetBrains website. That's unless you have a license for the professional version. That's what I use in my day-to-day. But for the purpose of all of these exercises, community is more than sufficient, and you're even allowed to use this in a commercial setting if you check out the license. Okay, so I have that installed. So let's just run it. There's PyCharm community. And now I'm going to start a new project. Well, I have this project I already started before we started this lecture. Let me just close that and start a new one. So you can see the procedure. There we go. Right, so let's say I want to make a new project. And let's call this in VXUni1 and then install it in the documents directory. You can install it anywhere. I'll take an existing interpreter. So show you what that looks like. Usually you'll choose existing, and if you've just installed Conda, it won't know about all of the different Conda virtual environments. So I will have to go and tell it where to find them. Let's see. Yes. So I select Conda over here, and then here I go and I start drilling down into my home directory, and inside of that it should be Miniconda, obviously. Miniconda. And then inside of environments, VXUni, and then inside of there, just select the Python W. That's the, there's a difference between these two binaries on Windows. There's a similar difference in macOS between Python and Python.app, whether they get a console, whether they get access to the GUI. But for now, I just choose Python W because inside of PyCharm, we'll have full access to standard out or to the console in any case. So let's just select that, and for convenience, make available to all projects. Okay, so now that's ready. I can now create my project, and there it is. Right. So just to show you where you can find this after you started a project, it's always under File, Settings, and then you can find it under the project heading over here, the project interpreter. You can see it says Python 3.6, and that's the one in VXUni. Right. That's perfect. So let's make a small file, just see how that works. Good old hello world. So hello world, how can we run that? Let's just save it, and there's a trick in PyCharm. If I go right click run on any Python file, it will create a run configuration for me over here, and there you can see it ran the file. Okay. Let's just nest this put this in a function, and then, oops, I always make this mistake. There we go. And I press Shift, save it, and press Shift F10 to run that. It does exactly the same. What you see here is a common Python idiom whereby I'm just saying that only if this is run as a script, then the main function should be executed. But if I import this into another Python module, it should not immediately invoke main. That's so that I can write library code that will function or that will do something when I run the script, but not when I import it. Then I have to invoke functions from it. Okay, so you have Python set up, your Miniconda virtual environments, and you have your PyCharm IDE set up, and you're ready for all of the following mini lectures. Thank you very much.